It took apes millions of years of evolution to become humans. But can you imagine cockroaches just to evade their human predators, actually evolving to look like us in a matter of mere years? 3 years ago, a deadly disease broke out in the US. It primarily infected children. There was no vaccine. No cure. Most of those infected died. Even those who survived were left permanently disabled. As the plague raged, America faced a massive crisis threatening its very future. At the 11th hour, entomologist Dr. Emma saved the day. She discovered the carriers were incredibly resilient cockroaches immune to all chemical pesticides. Conventional methods couldn't kill them. Later, Emma combined the DNA of termites and mantises, cultivating a new breed to kill the cockroaches. Emma named this new breed Judas. After the cockroaches ate the Judas's secretions, their metabolism accelerated rapidly, eventually starving them to death. The new method worked quickly. With the crisis resolved, people returned to their peaceful lives. However, this tranquility was shattered on one rainy night. A priest, clutching a wounded arm, frantically fled to a rooftop, seemingly pursued by something terrifying. Spotting a hanging basket below, the priest resolutely jumped into it, but the basket suddenly tilted. The priest glanced up and saw a figure, bundled up tightly in clothes, staring coldly down at him. Startled and physically exhausted, the priest finally lost his grip and fell to his death. The mysterious figure didn't let him be. Instead, it dragged his body into a cellar. The strength required was far beyond human capability. This mysterious figure wasn't human, it was a monster, and its origins seemed somehow connected to the Judas breed. Police were called and arrived at the church first. Emma's husband, Peter, an expert from the CDC, also came to assist. The priest had mysteriously disappeared. After searching, the police found no solid leads. In the church cellar, a lump of feces stuck to the ceiling caught the attention of the police chief and Peter. Judging by the size, the animal was huge. But what creature would defecate like that? They couldn't figure it out. Even more puzzling, they found 2 buttons within the feces, one clearly damaged. The chief and Peter were baffled, but we, the audience, know clearly. The buttons were the priest's. He had been eaten by the monster, digested, and excreted. Meanwhile, 2 kids from the slums brought a cardboard box to Emma. They said they found a strange bug in the subway station and wanted to trade it for some cash. As an entomology expert, Emma naturally wouldn't pass up a chance to study a new specimen. After a transaction of a few dollars, she excitedly opened the box. The strange bug was highly aggressive, and its secretions were very similar to the Judas breed. After testing, Emma found the pH level of the bug's secretions was highly consistent with 2 insects. One was the leafcutter ant from the Amazon River, and the other was the Judas breed released 3 years ago. Just as Emma was struggling to believe this, the monster quietly infiltrated her room through the window and stole the bug sample. By the time Emma came to check, the bug was long gone. That night, Emma shared her findings with Peter. Peter was shocked. To find the truth, the couple tracked down the 2 boys who sold them the bug. Emma asked if they'd seen any eggs like those in a photo, but the answer was no. According to the boys, they found the bug in a locked room. The boys asked if finding eggs would also pay. Peter didn't entertain them, gave them a little money, and sent them away. The couple pried the lock open and entered the room to search for eggs. Emma accidentally knocked over a string of beads and unexpectedly discovered a bottomless hole under a cabinet. As she reached for a flashlight, unaware the monster was nearby, security showed up just in time and kicked them out. From the security guard, they learned the room led to long-abandoned maintenance tunnels. Access was forbidden without a permit. Peter told the guard he'd go apply for the permit right away. Before leaving, Emma noticed the shoeshine man's son nearby. His name was Joey. He was somewhat autistic. Just one glance, and he could accurately name the style and size. It's worth noting that Joey witnessed the entire incident. But due to his cognitive limitations, Joey couldn't articulate the truth. He played with a bug toy and muttered about the funny shoes man. However, Emma didn't yet understand what funny shoes man meant. Back to the 2 boys. They didn't leave the station but walked along the tracks, determined to find the eggs from the photo. They could make money from them. After walking quite a distance, Whitey stepped on a disgusting puddle of slime. Following the trail, he saw something behind a pile of debris. Unbelievably, the kids actually found the egg sac. Whitey pulled out a knife, intending to dig out the eggs inside. Just as he was about to start, a strange noise came from behind them. They cautiously went to investigate and saw the monster standing there, holding a bloody, dead dog. Whitey stumbled backward in fear, tripped over a wire on the ground, and fell. In the blink of an eye, the monster vanished. Whitey screamed for help, but death had arrived. While waiting for the permit, Emma visited her university professor. The professor stated bluntly that biologically, he hadn't approved of Emma's method of using a new mutant breed to kill cockroaches back then. Emma was confused. The experiments had proven Judas couldn't survive or reproduce. The professor replied, "The outside environment is far more complex than the lab. It's not impossible that some Judas breed evolved and survived." Hearing this, Emma couldn't help but gasp. Soon after, Emma got a call from her friend Remy, who said her friend at the water treatment plant had made a major discovery. At the plant, workers were unclogging a filter, and the culprit turned out to be the corpse of an unknown creature. Emma tried to call Peter, but he was already underground with the chief and the security guard investigating the tunnels. The signal was poor. Peter, the chief, and the guard descended into the abandoned maintenance tunnels, a full 5 stories deep. The guard told them that, although deserted, many addicts lived down there. Over the past few years, some just disappeared. After finding a few bodies, rumors spread of a tall man in a trench coat killer. Unable to reach Peter, Emma asked Remy to take the unknown creature's corpse to the professor. An autopsy revealed it wasn't a random mutation, but a highly evolved predator. The professor guessed they likely had a complete colony. Back in the tunnels, the trio was nearly overwhelmed by a wave of foul stench. What greeted them next was even more physiologically revolting. The chief, enduring the stench, collected samples. For safety, he decided to wait until tomorrow to bring a full team down. But as they prepared to leave, the guard accidentally stepped on a large bug. Peter was furious. This was a Judas breed they'd gone to great pains to find. Before they could react, a wooden shelf collapsed. Peter and the guard were trapped below. The guard gave his walkie-talkie to the chief and told him to find the station manager for backup. Left with no better option, the chief headed back alone. Unfamiliar with the route, the chief got lost. On the way, he heard a strange noise behind an iron door. Driven by curiosity, he opened it. Inside were insect eggs. The eggs meant monsters were likely nearby. Thinking this, the chief quickly found an exit leading upward. He desperately tried to reach a rope on the ground to climb up, but fell. The monster was already closing in. The chief didn't give up, trying again. Unfortunately, not all efforts are rewarded. Emma, worried about Peter, waited at the subway station for him to emerge. But even after the last train passed, Peter didn't show up. As anxiety gripped her, a tall, thin shadow appeared on a wall nearby. Emma walked over and asked for the time but got no response. Sensing something wrong, Emma turned to leave, but the figure followed her. When Emma woke up, she was in the monster's lair. The wet ground was littered with horrifically mutilated corpses. Emma pulled a metal rod and ventured into the deep, dark pipes looking for a way out. Finally, she found a manhole exit, but it was too high up and covered. She couldn't reach it. Emma screamed for help, but the passers-by above didn't hear her. Worse, her shouts attracted a monster. Luckily, Emma had the rod and managed to escape. Seeing the monster charging, she went through the manhole cover to an even lower level. Soon after, a faint light appeared above her. It was the shoemaker. How did he get here? This traces back to the previous night. Joey heard rustling sounds from the church and climbed in through a broken window. The church was empty, filled only with statues of various forms wrapped in plastic film. Most kids would be terrified, but Joey was no ordinary child. He saw something and said, "Funny shoes." From this, we can see there was definitely more than one monster. It wasn't until the next morning that the shoemaker realized his son was missing. He called the police but was told cases weren't accepted until after 48 hours. Worried, the shoemaker investigated himself and eventually followed clues to the church cellar. Peter and the guard, unaware of the chief's fate, were still waiting. They encountered the shoemaker. His strength alone wasn't enough to save Emma, so he was going for help which is how he found Peter and the guard. With the three men's efforts, Emma was finally freed. However, the moment a glow stick dropped, illuminating the area, they were terrified by the monster's appearance and fled in panic. The four took refuge in an abandoned train car. At the last second, as the monster attacked, Peter quickly pinned it in the door gap. The guard cooperated seamlessly, firing several shots. Unbelievably, the monster finally severing its pinned lower half and crawling away. The guard refused to believe it wasn't dead yet. Despite Emma's objections, he pressured Peter to check if it was truly dead. Peter dragged it out. It was motionless. The guard relaxed, thinking it was finally dead. But his relief lasted less than 3 seconds. The monster's sharp claws suddenly moved, slicing like a knife across the guard's calf. The guard yelled in pain and quickly finished the monster off with more shots. Now it was definitely dead. After bandaging the guard's leg, Emma began the autopsy. Turning the monster's body over, she couldn't believe her eyes. It had lungs and internal organs. Insects don't have those. Furthermore, its secretions were identical to the Judas breed. This meant they were likely cockroaches that underwent thousands of mutations. Drawn by the smell of blood, more monsters attacked. The old train car wouldn't hold them for long. Emma had a quick idea. She scooped out some of the monster's slime and told everyone to smear it on the window seams and cracks, and all over the guard's body too, to cover the scent of blood. Emma's plan quickly worked. The outside gradually grew quiet. The guard found a subway station map and discovered that if they could start the train, they could reach the surface. The train was good quality and might still work. The guard pointed out the location of the track switch on the map. Throwing it would start the train. This arduous task fell to the shoemaker. The guard needed to find the electrical box and connect the wires to provide power. Considering the guard's injury, Peter volunteered to go instead. To mask their human scent, both Peter and the shoemaker covered themselves in the monster's ooze before setting off. Soon, Peter found the wires in a narrow passage. As he hurried to connect them, a monster suddenly appeared beside him. Peter held his breath. Thankfully, the slime worked. Peter had a close brush with death. After connecting the wires, he found a blown fuse. Left with no choice, he used his metal eyeglass frame as a makeshift fuse. Power was restored. Meanwhile, the shoemaker, searching for the track switch, encountered the missing Joey. The shoemaker wiped sweat from his face with a cloth while calling for his son to come over. Joey smiled but didn't move. Unnoticed by the shoemaker, wiping his sweat also removed some of the protective monster scent. Soon, a monster hiding in the corner set its sights on him. Back at the train, Emma made a new discovery. All the monsters they'd encountered so far were females. The males were lighter in color and had no wings. According to their reproductive model, there was only one male, the stud. If they found and killed it, the females couldn't reproduce, and the entire species would go extinct. But finding it was the problem. The guard grew impatient. The track switch was close. The shoemaker should have been back by now. Clearly, something was wrong. Emma told the guard to stay put, applied more slime, and went to find the shoemaker. At the site, she first found the shoemaker's dropped flashlight, then the terrified Joey. After throwing the track switch, Emma took Joey back towards the train. On the way, they successfully met up with Peter. When they got near the train, they found it surrounded by monsters. Here's why. Just minutes before, as the power and track switch activated, the train suddenly jolted into motion. The guard hit the emergency brake, accidentally re-injuring his leg. It bled profusely. The monsters were drawn by this fresh blood. The guard got off the train and walked deep into the tunnel. Minutes later, monsters swarmed him. The guard died a heroic death. The guard's sacrifice bought Emma, Peter, and Joey a chance. They found a freight elevator. But at this critical moment, Joey had an emotional meltdown and started crying loudly. The most feared thing happened. A monster heard the cry, smashed through the glass ceiling, and attacked. At this moment, Peter told Emma to take Joey and escape. He would stay behind to hold off the monster. The monster that dropped from above was precisely the male stud Emma wanted to find. To evade it, Peter hid in a narrow passageway, closing metal grate doors behind him as he fled. He finally managed to lock the monster behind the last door. But it was too soon to celebrate. Stepping on more ooze signaled danger nearby. Sure enough, the ceiling was covered densely with dormant monsters. Waking them would be disastrous. Meanwhile, the trapped male monster hadn't given up, madly ramming the great door. Then Peter noticed a gas pipe leaking methane. Lighting it with his lighter could wipe out all the monsters here. Peter found a fire axe and fiercely chopped at the pipe connection. Soon gas filled the area. Peter prepared to go down with the monsters, but fate played a cruel joke. His lighter malfunctioned and wouldn't spark. The next second, the monster broke through the door, striking Peter. The lighter fell to the ground. Almost simultaneously, the monsters on the ceiling began to wake up. Peter tried to grab the lighter, but it fell through the grate into a sewer below. Fighting for his life, Peter swung the axe again and again at the grate. Each strike sparked, accidentally igniting the gas. Thanks to plot armor, Peter managed to smash through the grate at the last second and jump into the water below. With a series of massive explosions, the monsters hiding in the darkness were instantly incinerated. Thinking it was all over, there was one last surprise. The male monster wasn't dead. It escaped into a tunnel and just happened to run into Emma. Seeing the monster advancing step by step toward Joe, Emma's young son, Emma panicked. She used the sharp edge of her necklace to cut her palm, using her blood to distract the monster. As the first morning train slowly approached, Emma had a brilliant plan to kill the male monster. She lured it under the train carriage. Under the immense friction, its body was quickly torn to pieces. Finally, police and ambulances arrived. It was confirmed the monsters were blown up, but the police couldn't find Peter. Just as Emma feared he was dead, Joey spotted a familiar figure in the crowd. It was Peter. He was alive. The reunited couple tearfully embraced. This film, Mimic, released in 1997, was the Hollywood directorial debut of Guillermo del Toro, who later created Hellboy and Pan's Labyrinth. The concept of mutant giant cockroaches that eat humans and even evolve into human-like forms is very creative. But one has to complain, while the visuals are intense, they're almost entirely pitch black. It's hard to see anything, leaving much to the imagination. Alright, that's all for today's story. See you next time.